welcome back to Sabers Forever. I'm John, and today we're going to be going over an 89 Sabers. Wow, that's like all blade. We're going to be going over an 89 Sabers Sidious. This thing is tiny. It's pretty heavy because it's all brass. It's really sturdy because it's just solid. And it's really cool. It's loud, it's bright, obviously, neopixel. The only thing about this thing that I have to say I don't like is that the blade depth, but that's for all of these, just because, I mean, look, it's only a little bit bigger than my fist. So, without further ado, how about we just jump right in and I'll show you what's going on. Alright, so this is the 89 Sabers Sidious. This guy is pretty easy to get access to, but also has some cool display pieces. So right here, obviously, this is not going to fit a 1-inch blade. And these are your power and your auxiliary. Right now, there's no power to the saber. So in order to do that, you're going to remove the display emitter and unscrew this counterclockwise. And then once that's off, we have this 1-inch emitter. But also I'd like to note that the brass section right here, or the gold chrome plate section, is removable to reveal this set screw right here. And that set screw holds the chassis in the saber. I'm just going to recommend completely removing this set screw. It's very small. Don't lose it. I'll send some extras with this hilt. But you can just literally dump the chassis. Now, I did go ahead and light the buttons, but this is a version 1 and I didn't know that these buttons have brass backings that stop the light from coming through. So while this does light up, these buttons don't light up, which is, it sucks, but you know, c'est la vie. Anyways, so right here we have the kill switch, which you can, or the kill key, which you can turn to give power to the board, or you can remove it completely. You have your proffieboard V2.2, your stock NPXL V3, an 18650 3.7 volt battery. These are 2 tactile switches with neopixel tops. So these are both buttons, power, auxiliary, and a 24mm bass speaker, KR. So this thing is very loud despite the speaker being small. Tight quarters cause for a lot of air to move through the venting, which is where you get your volume. So just twist this. This is also where you would plug in the saber to charge it. But you would just twist this until your buttons light up. And then I did take the liberty of drilling a hole right here. It's not even a hole, it's just a divot for the placement of the set screw so that it always aligns. It's really a pain in the butt to try and orient it every time. So that's why I also recommend removing the screw out of the hole. So just slide this in and line up that divot in the hole, and then get your set screw and throw that sucker back in there. Let's do that. And you're going to, we have gesture controls, but you're going to want to make sure that this is tight and that it's mostly flush, because this has to be able to go back on top. And this is also, as you can see, it is not completely flat on the bottom. It's a part of the design. So when screwing this on, or the display emitter, you want to make sure that you wind it and then just kind of wiggle this back and forth as you tighten this. And some things to be said is this was center, but threading always has a mind of its own and wants to move. So this set screw is no longer center, but not much you can really do about that. You need it for the blade, and it's not even a display emitter, so how can you really complain? I'm sending an Allen wrench for this set screw, and there's also an Allen wrench for this screw down here, which is actually holding on the pommel right here, but you'll never need to remove that because the chassis just dumps out the front. The blade depth is non-existent. These hilts are just very small. It comes with the territory for these hilts, and there's really not too much you can do about it. But the saber is really nice. I mean, this is all brass, basically. There's a few sections that are like the chrome, gold-plated sections are aluminum, but this is brass, and it's beautifully chrome-plated. I mean, it's two-tone, which is ridiculous. I don't even know how to do that. But the saber works great. Both buttons have pretty decent tactile sensation. You do have to push the auxiliary a little bit hard, but it obviously reacts just fine. And then on top of that, if you wanted just blaster deflections, you could hold the auxiliary for 1 second. Release it, you get that blaster effect, but now every swing, you'll get a blaster deflection until you do a regular blaster again. So, some pretty cool stuff. You get gestures, so you can pull it down. I said you can pull it. Okay, stab on. But I normally get it to work by pulling it down. Let's see if I can get it. And then twist off. So you twist it one direction and then back to resting quickly. But let's see. There we go. Yep. So then now you're in battle mode. So when you actually collide, it keeps the saber in lockup until you move it away from the position that you actually made the clash. And you can do that with stabs and floor drags and stuff. So when you use the gestures, you're putting the saber into battle mode, and that's what happens. Let's see, you can play music by holding the button for 1 second. You can also color change. You turn off the music by holding the button for 1 second while the blade is off. You can also activate music with the blade on by holding it straight up and then holding the button for 1 second and releasing it. This will activate the music. You can deactivate it the same way. If you do this while the blade or the saber is sideways, you'll get force abilities. So you get Palpatine quotes, which is really great. And then to change fonts, you would just tap the auxiliary while the saber is off, and the customer purchased Vengeance for this install by Kasith. Really cool font. And then force abilities. You get a force push, and you get choke. And that's a force push. There you go. And then to go backwards in fonts, you would just hold the saber upside down and tap the auxiliary. There are default fonts on here, also one font backwards. Brings you to the battery level, and when you put the blade in, it'll actually display in length and, in length and in color what your charge is on the battery. When you're not using the saber, I would just... Oops, I don't need that. When you're not using the saber, I would just recommend turning the saber off. Obviously, these LEDs are in here on right now, which they don't pull that much power, to be honest. It's only 1 neopixel, or 2 rather. Oop. But you don't want to just leave this on, obviously, for days, because they're just on. So you would just twist this again. If your speaker gets staticky, it probably means you have a low battery. So you would just pull this out like that, and you would just plug in your recharge port right here. So that just goes like, oop, pull this off. This is the recharge cable, and then you would just plug it in like that. This would turn red, and it would just indicate that it's charging, and once it turns green, then it's fully charged. You can also check the charge, obviously, with the blade, the battery font on the saber. So that does it for this. Let's just put this away. Doopy-doo. Put this back in. I'm just going through this backwards for you guys so you can see what this entails. Doopy-doopy-doo. Put on your gold let's put on the display. And I'm just going to ship the saber like this to the customer. So when you get it, you can just go through the exact same steps that I went through in the video to turn it on. And if you have any questions, or if I missed anything and you want to know how to do something like color change, which you would hold, color changing other than changing fonts, while the blade is on, you would hold the auxiliary and tap the power and it'll go beep beep beep, and then you can twist it to get colors. This saber, I did not include save state, so every time you turn the power off to the board or you switch fonts, all of the colors will reset to default, so Palpatine will always be red. And if you turn the saber on from an off state, meaning if you had turned the power off to the board by using the kill key and then you turn it back on, it'll always start on the Emperor Palpatine font. So that pretty much does it. Alright guys, that does it for this video. If you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. It's just a quick and easy way for you to show me that I'm going down the right path and that you like what I'm doing. So until the next time, may the Force be with you, and I'll see you on the next video.